Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachael for Thursday, the 31st of July. We have made it to the end of July. We are well past halfway mark through the year, and the earth is still turning, and God is still good, as always. Today, I'd like to share with you a devotion from Soul Fuel by Bear Grylls. It's called Eyes Front. Henry Ford was right. When everything seems to be going against you, remember that the airplane takes off against the wind, not with it. Struggles are a part of life, and we all need renewed courage from time to time. So it's comforting to read words like these from someone as great as King David. I was in trouble, he wrote. My eye is clouded and weakened by grief, my soul and my body also. Psalm 31, verse 9. Nobody can go through life without moments like these. But if we read on, we see another essential truth. In the tough times, we find out the most about where our trust lies. I trust confidently in you and your greatness, O Lord. You are my God. When hard times come, it's tempting to look back and long for things to be the way they were. But we are called always to look forward, not back. That's where God is leading us. Look up, not down, ahead, not back. That's where our help comes from, and that's where our courage gets restored and renewed. I found that to be a really timely devotion for me because things are just, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Just back from holidays, back from the accident and General Synod and all of the things. And as much as it's always lovely to take time off, there is also the recognition that unless, you have a job that is where someone else steps in and does the job for you while you're gone, like a factory work or something like that, or nursing or something, where somebody else, like shift work, where somebody comes in and literally does the job you were doing. When you come back to many jobs like mine, you come back to find the work is still there and work has been added onto the pile, and there are other concerns and frustrations and peopling, as a friend of mine says, that are still there or have been added to the pile since you left. And now not only do you have to do what you have to do today and moving on, but you have to catch up with what's been before. And it becomes really easy to look back. When I sit down in front of my computer in the morning and I look at all the emails I have to catch up on or the work that hasn't been done, it's really easy to start drowning in the what ifs and how am I going to get this done and what do I need to do first and things like that. And it's really hard sometimes to remember that I am called to look forward. That if I am moving, I'm not stagnant, then it means I'm moving forward. No sense moving back because that just pulls you back into a hole, but to move forward. So say something difficult has happened, like you have a fight with your friend, or a coworker isn't getting along with you, can't agree with them, or you just want to bang people's heads against a wall. Sometimes that happens, right? The people can't see your vision, or they're not communicating, they don't agree with you, or you don't agree with them, and it gets frustrating. It's really easy to get sucked into that vortex of right here. But the truth is that we're called to move forward. When Peter got out of the boat, when Jesus called him to have faith to get out of the boat. Did it make sense that he would get out of the boat? Peter can't walk on water. Even though he was a fisherman, doesn't necessarily mean he could even swim. But for him to step out of the boat was for calling him to do a new thing, to go against the wind, like that pilot flying into the wind instead of with it. It required him to do a difficult thing. And Bear Grylls is talking about just that, is sometimes it's during the most difficult seasons in our life that we learn the most, that we discover new skills, or we discover people who can help us learn those new skills. Or sometimes we just have to discover that we're in it on our own with God, and that God will help us. I think it's really easy to think that if you're a Christian, if you're following Jesus, then everything's going to be awesome. And the truth is, I think that sometimes when you're a Christian and you're following Jesus, that it's quite the opposite. That as a Christian, we don't have any shortcuts. We don't have any easy outs. There's no point when we just realize, we get to say to ourselves, well, I love Jesus, so everything's going to be easy. Not so. especially in our day and age where people are really anti-Jesus. They really, for lots of good reasons, have become very, very frustrated by this whole idea of Christianity and what it seems to mean, even though that what they're probably seeing is an absolute perversion of the truth. But that's what people see and hear, and that's what they think, which makes it actually more difficult for us as Christians, as followers of Christ, to hold our ground and to continue to move forward, to face the difficulties and recognize that we can do this. And the reason we do it is because of Christ. Jesus hung on the cross not because it was the easy thing to do. And he was God, so he could have chosen not to hang on the cross. And yet he chose to do the hard and difficult thing so that we would not have to do the hardest and most difficult things ourselves. It's okay. Actually, it's encouraged for us to come up against that wall, to face the difficult things. I was watching on my holidays, watching Christmas in July on the W Network, the Hallmark Channel. And there was a movie about an author, a romance novelist, who was writing a book about a Navy SEAL who falls in love with someone. And her publisher said, you need to get experience. Like, you need help. You're not writing the way you should. So they made her, set her up with a mentor who was a Navy SEAL. And she had to go through BUDS camp, so getting ready for basic training. And they came up against that wall with just the rope. And she couldn't figure out how to do it. And she was with a team. By the end of the course, she still couldn't get over it by herself, although she was getting better at trying. And what happened was the rest of the team recognized that they needed to help her. And so the team helped her. She still did the work, but they gave her a boost. Someone gave her a knee to stand up on. They gave her the work and the encouragement she needed so she could get over that wall. And really, I find that wall is quite a metaphor for the life of a Christian, for what Bear is talking about. It's through the very difficult things that we learn how to get over the wall. If we could just walk around the wall and skip the effort, what would that say about who we are, our ability to persevere, our ability to be resilient, our ability to actually face the difficult stuff of life? We're not called to get around the wall. We're called to go over the wall. And that means we have to face the hard things and recognize that even when it's the hardest and it feels like Jesus isn't with us, that's when he is with us. He's just ahead of us. Maybe he's just over the wall or outside the boat calling us and saying, have faith and keep trying. Because what you will learn in coming to see me over here is what you will need later in life, what you'll need to help other people to get over the wall. We need to recognize and acknowledge to God that things are hard. And they can be. And right now in the world, at least in North America, they certainly seem to be hard. But the truth is that as Christians, we aren't called to ignore the hardships. We're actually called to embrace them and recognize that it's through the hardships, and too, sometimes especially, that God calls us better into who we are called to be. So if you're facing a hard and difficult time in your life right now, it's okay to sit down and wallow in it for a while and have a good cry and say, why me? But eventually you're going to have to stand up and say, okay, I got this. With God's help, we can do this. And you might be amazed at who you recognize in the mirror when you get through this difficult thing. Because it will be you, but it will be more of you, a stronger you, a more dedicated you. There'll be more shades of color and gray than the black and white that you thought you saw before. It will be a beautiful you when you acknowledge that you need to do the hard stuff, because that's where the growth comes from. Have a great day. God bless you. I will see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachael.